The Center for Educational Media and the College of Education at Middle Tennessee State University are proud to offer professional development to K-12 educators in Tennessee through our online video library. These videos are aligned with standards set by the Tennessee Department of Education. For more professional development videos, check out our website at cem.mtsu.edu.
Hello. We're so happy you're joining us in the Center for Educational Media. My name is Dr. Laura Clark, Director of CEM in the College of Education at Middle Tennessee State University. Today, you are joining us in the AI in K-12 Collaborative. This is part of the PK-12 Collaborative, a larger professional development initiative that we have here in the Center for Educational Media. And today, we're really happy to welcome Dr. Hans Ballou, who is Curriculum Supervisor in Sevier County Schools of K-6, Science, Social Studies, and STEM. Dr. Ballou has been doing some creative things with AI in K-12, both in classrooms and in districts and schools. And so he is sharing some of his successful practices with us today, and I really look forward to this presentation. So Dr. Hans Ballou, please take the floor.
Thank you, Dr. Clark, and thank you to MTSU for being such a gracious host. Again, my name is Dr. Ballou, and I am a curriculum supervisor in Sevier County for K-6 STEM, Social Studies, and Science. And so we're just going to talk a little bit about how we used Google Gems and how to create your own AI teacher assistant. I do believe this is a great foundational or a great entry point to using AI within your classroom and getting the most productivity that you can and saving your teachers time. And so we'll go right into what is a Gemini Gem. So one, it's kind of like taking a generic chatbot that responds to questions and prompts that you would give it, much like how everyone else uses Gemini or ChatGPT. And then a Gemini Gem is custom. It's trained for one specific teaching task, and where you can go and you can plan lessons, design questions, given feedback. But the biggest part of why you'd want it to be trained in a custom chatbot, if you can kind of think of it like this, in college, some of us had people that majored in general studies, and that's what a general chatbot would be. But when you train it like a Google Gemini Gem, then it is specialized, such as majoring in aeronautical engineering, something very specific and trained for that exact task. And that's what the Gemini Gem does. And so you want it to, when you're using a gem that's trained for your content area and you're doing lesson plans, you want to make sure that the standards that you're using are your actual Tennessee state standards if you're in Tennessee. You don't want the chatbot to be drawing from standards in South Carolina, North Carolina, Common Core, Next Generation, etc., because we are tested on those, and we want to make sure that we have the best alignment to HQIM and the Tennessee state standards. And so this just helps the chatbot focus itself and prevent it from drifting into content that you may not want. And so how it actually works, one, we're gonna go through how to actually build one. But first you want to do is define its purpose. What is it going to do? You want to give it clear, specific, explicit instructions, and think about the explicit directions you give to a kindergartner when we're going to line up to go to the bathroom, right? You want every single piece of the thing that you want them to do to be outlaid. If you can remember the lesson plan on algorithms and building a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and if you miss the step that puts the lid back on the jar, then the whole thing has gone kaput. And so it's kind of that same way. You want to give it very clear instructions. The more clear the instruction, the better the output. And that's just something you have to realize. The more you put on the input, the more refined and honed in your output will be. And so the next part, after you give it clear instructions and you walked it through exactly what you want, how you want it to work, and then the outputs that you're going to receive, then you go into testing it and making sure that it does exactly what you want it to do. The worst thing that you could do is to build a custom chatbot and not test it and send it out to other people to use. It will hallucinate. That's what we call, a hallucination is what we call when the AI kind of messes up. And what it is, it's a large language model. And so all it's doing is pattern recognition based off of a gargantuan amount of data. And so what it does when it doesn't know what to do, it creates the pattern itself, which is why in video or pictures you get 2 noses and 6 fingers, etc. But it'll also do that when it feeds you misinformation. And so we just need to be careful about it, that it's trained a specific way, but that you go through the training, testing it, and making sure you get the desired output. And then lastly, we'll use it in daily work. And hopefully this will save a lot of time for your teachers. So why an AI teacher assistant matters to your classroom. Basically, the one that we're going to build today, which will be kind of a generic one, you can go a lot deeper. There's a lot of ideas out there of how we use it. We might discuss some of those as well. But one, you can plan lessons that intentionally hit 4 or 5 team indicators, because you can use any document to train it with. And so if you train it with the team rubric, then the lesson plans that are produced are going to be aligned to the team rubric, and it will be able to help you improve your scores on the team rubric. I can't tell you how many times that I've been in a classroom and I want to tell the teacher to improve their questioning, but I may not have that content knowledge to tell the teacher how to improve the questioning or the presentation of instructional materials, etc. So this is a great way for it to be trained and then also give you great pre-conference questions, reflection questions for the teacher after a team lesson. It can also identify rubric-aligned evidence before the lesson, not after the observation, and then reduce guesswork in instruction, planning, and environment domains. You get targeted feedback that is aligned to exact team descriptors, and of course, much, much more. An AI teacher assistant will help you before the lesson plan with the rubric language in mind to make sure that you're hitting all the indicators, such as thinking, problem solving, questioning. Also, during the planning, identify student evidence for level 5. You want to have a clear model of what success looks like in every lesson and model that. And so this will help you create those models if maybe the project's a little abstract. And then after drafting your lesson plan, it will also help you refine activities to reduce risks. For instance, you may begin with the lesson plan that would have a 3 in questioning, but the gym is going to help you elevate your lesson plan to make it a 5 in questioning by having student-generated questions before instruction. And so this does nothing but help us save time, things that we could already do in our planning for team rubric observations. However, it does a lot faster for us. So what's some of the roles that an AI teacher assistant can play for classroom teachers? 1, it could be a planning partner. 2, it could be a cognitive coach. It could be an adaptation assistant, especially if you have a lot of students that are ELL, SPED, 504 within your classroom. Feedback drafting assistant, and then also a reflective coach. After you're done with every lesson, every teacher I know goes back to it and says, this is something that I could have done better. I know teachers that are 45 years into teaching as veteran teachers, and they still tell me, Hans, when I'm done with the lesson, I immediately reflect back to see what can I do better, and there's always something that I could do to help my students a little bit more. So how to create your own gym. It's a 4-step instructional process that we're going to go through. The first thing that we're going to do is define the instructional purpose of the gym. And in just layman's terms, what do you want it to do? What are you trying to use this gym for? What's the purpose for it, right? And what's the function? And so planning and learning, what learning goal or standard am I planning for? What part of instruction do I want to support with the planning? Who are my students and what do they need help with to learn this content? So a teacher thinking example could be, I want help planning a lesson sequence that moves students from basic understanding to deeper thinking. You could also say to take this standard of content from abstract to concrete for some of my learners that need that process. So 2, we need to develop clear instructions, as we said before. Clarify expectations for learning. What should the students be doing saying, or producing? What instructional constraints must say the same? Time, materials, standards? And what should the gym focus on when giving feedback or suggestions? For instance, teacher thinking example. Help me revise this activity so students do more of the thinking, but keep the same standard and high quality of material. The third thing we're going to do is test and refine. So improving instruction before students actually experience it, right? Many of us have had lessons that have been flops, and we wish that we could take that back. It's nice to have a cognitive partner that you can talk to and give your products to say, this might end up in a risk. And so we want to reduce that risk as much as possible so that we don't have those flops. So improving instruction before students experience it. Does this plan support student learning as intended? Where might students struggle or disengage? How could the task, questions, or sequence be improved? And the one thing that I like to do with it the most, especially in science, is to front load student misconceptions. How are they going to get this wrong by the wrong way of thinking? And so if you know that ahead of time, then you can plan for it and circumvent it. Teacher thinking example would be, if I taught this tomorrow, where would students get stuck? And how could I adjust the lesson? How powerful would it be to know that ahead of time before you experience it in real time and then have to reteach afterwards? Again, saving time for teachers. The fourth part would be use and reflect. So teaching, assessing, adjusting. How did students respond to the lesson? What evidence of learning did I see? And then what should I adjust next time to improve learning outcomes? Those are important questions that every teacher asks of themselves, but it's very helpful when someone can review your materials and help you see maybe some blind spots that you didn't see. So teacher thinking example, based on student work, what should I change in my next lesson to strengthen understanding? Now we're going to go through a step-by-step process on how to build an AI teacher assistant in Google Gemini. And so you'll see the roles here. We're going to define the role, provide examples, test and refine, and then deploy. And so if you're following along, you can pause this video at this time and then open up your Google Gemini. And then we're going to look at exactly where do you go to create these gems. So now that you have Google Gemini open, you will see on the left-hand side, you'll have to open up the sidebar. It's got 3 lines that look like a hamburger. And so you might have to click on that piece first, but then if you'll notice by the PowerPoint, you'll see a little section called Gems. And so it's indicated by the circle and the very crooked arrow that I drew. I apologize for my craftsmanship. But you'll go and you'll find that section. The next thing you're going to do is click on those gems, and then you'll see Open New Gem. It's the blue button there. Now, keep in mind that Gemini and every other company does update their websites very often, and so this button may be somewhere else by the time you watch this video. So just kind of look around, but it should say New Gem or Create Gem with a plus mark. So after you've opened it up, this is going to be the screen that you will see. And at the very top, you'll see New Gem, which is a place that you'll need to name the gem. You simply do that by clicking on the words New Gem and then start typing it in there. So this is where we're at now. Let's go to step 1. Let's name our new gem. So let's make a gem to help us improve our lesson plans based on the team rubric. That's the one we're going to do generically today. And again, there's many other avenues that you can take with this. One application that we had at Sevier County Schools is that we had a deficit in 5th grade science and we couldn't figure it out. And so I'm doing PLCs and I'm going classroom to classroom and talking to teachers and trying to see why 5th grade science was so low. I went to see principals and principals said, my science is going great, but my 5th grade teacher is just not producing. And I go in the classroom and I'm watching the teacher and I'm like, this teacher is teaching their pants off. I mean, they're blowing the doors off the classroom. This is a good teacher. There's another problem here, and it's not the teacher. Because I also noticed when I went to every school, they said the same thing about their 5th grade science teacher. And so this could not be true everywhere. I started to look at the data. The data for the state of Tennessee was also a dip. The entire district that I'm in, 5th grade, took a dip. And literally by about 9 to 10% lower proficiency rates than every other grade level. Then I did a standards analysis, and I found out that standards analysis, 5th grade science and 3rd grade science, compared Tennessee standards versus next generation science standards in GSS, they're just basically flipped. And so our textbook, after we did a textbook analysis, was not covering some of the standards that were there. And so after we did the textbook analysis, we turned and made a Gemini gem that helped us make content for those standards that were missing. Turns out, out of 44 raw score data points, 12 of those points lay with 3 standards, and those 3 standards, one of them wasn't even claimed in the textbook, and the other 2 were only there because there was a visual and there was a little caption at the bottom in like 9-point font that I can't even see. And so if that's your idea of instruction, we were leaving 12 points on the table for Sevier County schools. We used this Gemini gem to create content that matched those standards, and I'm proud to tell you that the following year, which we're enjoying and celebrating now, our 5th grade science went up by 10%. At a district of our size, you do not see 120 kids move from not proficient to proficient. And so that was a little Christmas miracle that came from a Gemini gem. And so that's another example, but the team observation rubric, the team observation coach Gemini gem is useful to everyone. It's useful to leaders that go in and do observations, and it's also useful to teachers. I also teach at another university, and I give this to my students so that they can also improve their lesson plans for things like EdTPA and general observations from their principals, supervisors, and the people from the college of their choice. And so that's how this is useful to everyone. So after we have named the gem, we're going to call it Team Observation Coach. You should have that typed in now. Now let's go to the description. And so you will notice that the description, you'll see the titles there. Underneath T, you see Team Observation Coach, and that's the interface that you will see when you build it, or if you share it with someone else, that's all they're going to see. The description is right below it. So whatever you type, just know that it's going to be visible to the face of whoever is user facing. And so in the description, you're just going to type in there really quickly, a personal teacher assistant for refining team lesson plans. You can change that in any way that you want to for your own personal gym, but that would be a great description for you. Again, nothing too crazy here. We're just kind of putting in, what is this gym? What does it do? That's all. It doesn't train the gym in any way. It's really just an identification tool for you and anyone that may use this. All right, step 3, instructions. This is one of the most important parts of creating a Gemini gym. If this is not detailed enough, then it's not going to give you the output that you want. So this is the brain of the gym, if you will. So we'll start with the role. This is an important part of any successful prompt. And by the way, prompt engineering is very important when using AI. It gives you the framework to give the gym the information that it's going to need to do the job that you want it to do. So we're going to start off with the role. So if you will, it's on the slide. You can type this in yourself. You're just going to type in role, : you are an expert Tennessee team evaluator and instructional coach. Your goal is to help teachers and administrators understand, apply, and brainstorm evidence for the team general educator rubric. Go ahead and take a time and pause, and then you can type all of that in, and that will be the first part of your instructions. Okay, hopefully you have that part typed in now. The next part you're going to type in is capabilities. Now there's all kinds of prompt engineering out there. You don't have to follow this one. Google Gemini itself has the PARTS formula, P-A-R-T-S. And so I think we're going to have some other episodes and sessions where we'll talk more about prompt engineering. However, this is the one we're going to follow today, but you can change it in any way that you want to when you're making your own gyms in different capacities. So the second thing we're going to do after role will be capabilities. And so one, you're going to type this in, rubric alignment. You can analyze lessons, lesson plans, observation notes, and tag them with specific team indicators, such as that you would find in the rubric: questioning, thinking, academic feedback. And then also type in level 5 coaching. You always aim to move the users from teacher-led level 3 to student-led level 5 evidence. For instance, if the teacher's the only ones doing the questioning and asking questions, then that's a level 3. When students start to ask questions during the lesson, that means they're interested, they have inquiry, they're engaged, they're going to remember this information. We know that through brain science. And when students ask questions, that becomes a level 5. I hope you understand the example and what we're trying to do. And so differentiation, top that in there as well. You understand the nuance between the instruction, the planning, and the environment domains. And then analysis. You analyze lesson plans to provide advice on how to improve the lesson plan through the lens of the team rubric. And you look at the instructions there, every piece of that is integral in teaching it what we want it to be able to do. And the instructions piece can get quite long. If you're kind of worried about, is this too much? It's never too much. Until you train it, and then you'll decide, are there things I need to take out, or are there things that I need to add? But that's integral to train it, to find that out. So what are some constraints that you may give it? I always give my Gemini gems constraints in some way. And so one, you can say always reference specific indicators such as instruction, grouping students, or do not give general advice. Give advice tied to rubric descriptors. And so when asked for examples, provide concrete teacher actions and student actions. These are constraints that you can give it. Some of the things that I also put in there is I tell it not to be a golden retriever and tell me how awesome my lesson is. I want it to be factual and I want it to really evaluate and not provide echo chamber thinking, right? And so I'm sure you do too. And so that would fit into the constraints. These are great, but you can add more as you see fit. Step 4 will be in the knowledge part. And so if you'll notice on the screen, you have a snapshot of where you're building your instructions. Right below it is the knowledge. And this is the second most important part of your gem. So you need to think about, for knowledge, what documents would you need to upload to the gem for it to be accurate? For instance, you don't want it to tell it to source Tennessee state standards and not give it Tennessee state standards, right? And you also need to make sure that it's in a form that it can read and understand. If it's going to be doing anything dynamic, I wouldn't suggest throwing a large 1,200-page PDF in there. I would definitely put in a CSV file of some kind. And so you might want to play with that to see what your information that you have would be best read by the gem. So the instructions are the brain, or how the gem will think. The knowledge is what the gem will think about. So remember, instructions, you're telling it what to think and how to think. And this is what are we thinking about with the knowledge documents that you upload. And so on this PowerPoint here, you have hyperlinks to specific documents that we want you to be able to click on and then download. And you can find these on the state website, team.org, etc. And so the first document that we're going to look at would be the team observation rubric. You might do sample refinement statements. Again, that comes from the team.org. The Tennessee acceleration model, and maybe even a team lesson plan template. And that way, if you have a template on what a lesson plan should look like, then the output will look like the template that you gave it, right? And so again, anything that you can think of to help it know what you want before it gives an output, you're gonna get a better output. So that's knowledge. So again, take some time, think about what documents do I need for this to be successful. For instance, if I'm doing 5th grade science, I definitely want the 5th grade science standards there. I want the instructional focus document in there. I want every TCAP question that they've given me about those standards as a model for the gem to look at and pull academic vocabulary from. All of these little nuances, they're very important on the success of your outputs. So go ahead and take a moment and pause there, and then we'll pick up with, if you want to pause the video, we'll talk about the default tool. Okay, now step 5. We've got the default tool. This is a place that you can decide which Google Gemini tool to use. For the instance, we will select no default tool. No default tool. But let's discuss what each tool is and how you would use it. And so if you're looking at guided learning, and let's say you're wanting to build a bot and you want to learn more about quantum physics. You could build a bot, and then the default tool would go to guided learning, and it would help you learn how to consume information about quantum physics, and it'll give you checkpoints for understanding, etc. I actually use this myself to understand some of the science that I took on with the new supervisory role. So deep research would be another one. If you've ever had a question about something, if you're a school leader and you're kind of wondering, should I assign homerooms to kindergarten students before kindergarten screening or after? What's the research say? You can load it with this deep research, and then I also plug in a word called meta-analysis, so that I'm not looking at one single case study that may not replicate. I'm gonna look at all the case studies that's been mentioned, and then I'm gonna get what's the general coding, or the general rules that actually happen in all of the research pieces, the action research. And so that's helpful for a lot of different ways. And so you can also create images and do videos, etc. Now you can also make music. But again, if this is a general tool that other people are going to be using, I would just make it no default tool, and then they can try to figure out which tool that they want to use if they want to do a video or a image, etc. All right, so again, let's select no default tool for this one. And this is what it should look like now. Go ahead and check your screen with the video and see if everything is aligned. And if not, then you know where to fix it at. Now, after you have all this information in here, this is going to be very important, and something that I've not done several times. You need to make sure that you save the gym, and make sure that you save all the work that just went into that. Those instructions probably took you a good 20 to 30 minutes. By the way, also, if you're having trouble and you're taking more than an hour to create your instructions, then open up Google Gemini, just Gemini by itself, and tell it what you're doing, that you're creating instructions for a Gemini gym, and it will help you do that as well. And so, again, we just want to save time with everything that we do. So after you've pressed save, this is what it'll look like. It will say Gym Team Observation Coach has been created, and then start chat. From good to great, analyzing your plan. And so this is where we begin the training part of it. Right now it's built, but it's not ready for consumption. It's not ready to be public facing, teacher, student, or anyone else for that matter. This is just still privately for you. And this is where we're going to start using it. So upload your lesson plan. If you'll see with the arrow that's marked, there's a plus sign down there. And then it's going to say upload files, or upload from computer, or etc. And you can also add from Drive. If you have the lesson plan that's saved in your Google Drive, you can do that as well. But this is just where you're going to import your lesson plan that you want to start looking at to model what's the output going to be, and do I like the way that this thing is thinking, okay? So after you have that, if you need to, press pause, find the lesson plan, download it to it, and then let's start analyzing. Okay, so let's analyze the plan. After uploading your lesson plan, give a prompt to the gym to get started. So here's some sample prompts that you can use. I have pasted my lesson plan for 9th grade English below. Acting as a strict team evaluator, that's a role, right? Review the instruction domain of this plan. Then I'm going to tell it what to do. Identify one area where I'm hitting at level 3 at expectations. Identify one area where I'm at the risk of scoring a level 1 or a level 2. The specific descriptor from the uploaded observation rubric to explain your reasoning. And so the following slides are going to give you more examples. So look for the connections in the documents and instructions from the prompts. For instance, this prompt forces the gym to critically think rather than just be nice, and requires it to cite the PDF evidence and everything that you uploaded. And so I will say this as well, before we get started in the analyzing, my students that I teach at a college level, they have told me that it will continue to improve because you're never a level 5 at everything. And so at some point in time, you have to say enough is enough. And so this is going to be a finished product. However, running it through a few times will be very generous to your output. All right, so here's sample prompt number 2, the level 5 shift. And so let's say you're ready for that. Move this lesson from teacher-led to student-led. And this is a very fun way to shift your classroom if you're a traditional sage on the stage kind of teacher and you're looking to get your students more active. So prompt, look at the activities and materials section of my lesson plan. You've already loaded it. Currently, students are watching a video and filling out a guided notes sheet. This feels like passive compliance, which would be level 3 on the rubric. Suggest 2 alternative ways to structure this activity using the same video but requiring thinking and problem solving. Constraint, do not change the video material, such as what the students will be watching to get a better output. The goal is the students must generate the insights, not just record mine. And that's a big shift, right? So it keeps the material the same, respecting the teacher's plan, but forces the task to require higher order thinking, which is exactly what an observer looks for in activities and materials. Prompt engineering, it is not magic, it is just conversation. The bad prompt would be too vague, right? Scenario, a teacher wants feedback on their questioning technique. User, is my questioning good? You're not going to get a very good output with that because it really doesn't know what you're asking. A gym response would be, yes, questioning is important. Make sure to ask open-ended questions and give wait time. The critique is this is useless fluff. This is not a productive tool for you. It gives generic advice found on any blog, and it doesn't know your lesson or the team rubric. And so that's why gyms are important, and the prompt that you give it is important. So let's improve the prompt. Let's say this is where we started at with our prompt. Now let's look and see what would be a better prompt. User would say, I'm teaching a lesson on the Great Gatsby. Look at my list of discussion questions below. Are these higher order thinking questions? And then you paste the questions. Just have it check it out. Gym response would be, these look good. Question 3 is a higher order thinking question because it asks for analysis. Question more though is more recall. Critique, this is better. It analyzes the specific content, but it still doesn't use the specific language of the Tennessee team rubric. And that is important, not only for your alignment to the Tennessee team observation and how we actually do the lesson plans, but also if you're using it as an administrator, you want to use that same language when you're giving feedback. This is a best version of the engineered prompt using role, task, and constraint. So, user, act as a role, team instructional coach. Review the questions below against the questioning indicator of the observation rubric. I bolded those on the slide so that you would know this is where detail takes it up a notch. That's where you go from the ugly to the good, right? And so identify which specific descriptor each question aligns with, and then task, rewrite any recall level questions to push them to a level 5 standard of student generated questions or deep reflection. So the gym response might look like this. Question 1 aligns with recall, level 2. To move this to level 5, try this phrasing. Based on the evidence in chapter 3, how would you evaluate the narrator's reliability? This forces evaluation rather than specific recall. And you can tell by the 3 examples that this is a much better form of an output for you. It also requires less steps for you to go back to the gym to ask, such as, how do I improve my level of questioning, right? It's already built in because you built it into the prompt on the front end. So here's some magic words as a cheat sheet that you can use. You can write these down and use these on your prompts. Any prompt that you use, and this is not even GEMS, just regular Gemini or ChatGPT or Grok or whatever you use. The words align with forces the gym to look at the uploaded rubric PDF. If you don't put that in there, it will start sourcing it from its general knowledge. Evidence for, this forces the gym to go back and look for concrete student-teacher actions. When you're training and you're looking for evidence for, or it's sourcing a material, the first times that you're training it, you need to go back and make sure that it is actually saying that from the original document. Because if not, then it's hallucinating, and we need to fix that problem, okay? So, and it will hallucinate more if you don't use words like align with, evidence for. You also can say level 5 shift. This tells the gym to stop being satisfied with good and aim for exemplary. Constraint, this tells the gym what not to do. Do not change the text. Do not suggest group work. Do not modify the context of the video, etc. And so these are some great magic words to use. I'm sure there's other ones out there, but I've known this in real time using the gyms myself, is that the more I use words like this that force it to do an action, the better my output becomes. Training time. So think of your students in class. They are starting a new project, and let's say they're going to take a lump of clay and create a solar system to scale. This is a project we do in every 5th grade science classroom. Would it help students to see a model? Absolutely. I have seen this lesson played out where students didn't have a model or clear instructions, and this was a terrible lesson. I've also seen it with very clear instructions, a great model, and it turned out to be a great lesson that students actually got the conceptual understandings needed to answer any question, not just that they've been test prepped on. So would it help to see what a quality product looks like? In everything we do, we should give a quality product model to our students to see what it looks like. Would it help the students to see a lower quality of work? Now, that's not one that's pervasive, like not every teacher does that, but it's definitely useful to say, okay, that's what not to do. Of course, it's going to help every student, but it's also going to help your gym. In the same way you would teach any child, that's exactly how you're going to have to think to train an AI assistant. And so, the lazy gym, why we need training. The problem is with that examples, the gym defaults to being nice, like a golden retriever, rather than rigorous. It is built to make you like it, right? And so it's going to give you some echo chamber thinking if you're not careful. The scenario, a teacher asks, is this activity good? And the untrained response is, yes, this is a great engaging activity. Students love videos. And so the critique would be, this is useless as a team evaluation. I hope your principal doesn't give you evaluation feedback like that, right? It lacks rubric alignment and it doesn't help you improve your practice at all. So the cheat sheet for instructions, copy and paste these exact examples into your gym's instructions box at the bottom. And so we've got some examples of desired behavior that's there. And we're going to just take a pause, if you need to pause the screen for just a second, and go ahead and go back to your instructions on your gym and include these parts on there so that it will give them models of good instruction and bad instruction. And so after you've published your gym, you may be asking, well, how do I edit my gym? How do I go back after, if I'm training it and I'm not getting the output that I want, how do I fix it? And so this is a pretty easy one as well. So how to edit or improve your gym. On the left-hand sidebar, again, you need to find gyms, which we looked at the very beginning of the video, like the hamburger, the 3 lines. After you find gyms, underneath it, you should see the gym that you're looking for. This one's called Team Observation Coach, and you'll see with the red arrow, and then you got to click on the pencil icon to edit it. Now we're going slow, but that's so that anyone can access this that wants to. So after you click the pencil, you'll come back to this screen that we were just working on, and you can edit your instructions. Just make sure to click update at the very end, or again, you'll lose everything if you close out, okay? The update section or the update button will usually be blue after you've edited something, and so it's indicated with that red circle around the button in the top right-hand corner. And again, if you're going to edit your instructions, you literally just copy and paste it and go under instructions, click into it, and press paste. All right, let's train your gym. So now we're going to use your gym. As you find things that you like or dislike, you can do 2 things. 1, go back and edit the instructions, which is what we just did on the past 2 slides. Or 2, tell it to save this to memory. Now, this framework, or always give the standard with the standard code, etc. Those are examples, like always use this framework, always do this, and then tell it to update its memory, and then it will house those instructions within its internal memory for you. It'll also probably use that to scale for every conversation that you have within it, okay? Now, you can also go back and edit those saved memories, both in Google Gemini and also in ChatGPT. All right, so talk to the gym and tell it what you like and dislike, how you want your outputs, etc. Make sure to use the thumbs up and thumbs down button after each output at the beginning. And so once it gives you an output, it gives you the opportunity to give it a thumbs up or thumbs down at the bottom of the output. Make sure you're using that because that's going to refine it and let it know what you like or the output that you want. And so if you're never giving it feedback, then it's never going to lean in because it doesn't know which way to lean. Remember, because of how the AI is programmed, it will never stop refining your lesson plan. It will refine as many times as you tell it to refine. And so you just need to remember there's going to be a time that you need to think that this is perfection and it's good enough as it is, okay? So we have some other ideas as well. for gyms or custom GPTs. Again, we use it for creating CFAs. I've got one that will walk through the PLC process, all 4 questions from Dufour's model for the PLC process from Solution Tree. We also have gyms that will help us code HTML simulations for our websites that we can put that students can, for example, go through a simulation that goes through all the phases of the moon, which is a 5th grade science standard. And so there's many applications that you can use for this, not just the team rubric. If you're a classroom teacher, you can load it with your standards, all of your material that you have. Some of your textbooks even load in a PDF. And it's a closed system in Google that's owned by your school system. And so that information doesn't go and train the entire world cloud of AI. It stays housed and safeguarded within your own school district. And so there's many ways that you can use the GPTs, and you just got to be creative in how you can make it give you the output that you want it to give. With great power comes great responsibility. That's the golden rule of AI. And we have got to make sure that we protect data privacy. That is a big term in not only the AI field, but all of technology and the school educational landscape right now. So the rule, if it identifies a student, it stays out of the gym, okay? If it says a student name, teacher name, it doesn't need to go in there. So let's not put any kind of information from a student within your gym. Here's the red light list. Never upload these. Student names, student ID numbers, IEPs or 504s with personal details in them, grades associated with specific names. Now, can you use it for data analysis? Absolutely, but it can't be tied to student names. It's great at data analysis, but you, again, cannot have it tied to a student name or a teacher name. Now, green light, what is safe to upload to a Google Gemini Gym? Blank rubrics, lesson plan templates, anonymous data. For instance, 30% of my class missed the question on fractions. Or I have 5 students that scored a 40% on the CFA. What's some reteaching strategies for this standard? You can still use it. It's just we're not going to have it associated with student names and protect those students' private data and privacy. And so you can also upload general curriculum maps. There's also a very important issue that we need to talk about, not only for students, but also for adults. When social media came out, I'm not sure I know a single person that said the school systems did a bang-up job with teaching our kids how to use social media. We have books like The Anxious Generation that's been published, right? And so we see some harm that came from that. We want to make sure that we safeguard our students where we don't see the harm that came from social media to come also from AI. We get another at-bat at this, guys. And so we want to take this very seriously and make sure that our students do not use AI in a way that's going to not be beneficial for them. For instance, you can see very quickly in a college situation where if they don't write their own paper and they just feed it some prompts, that they're going to lose their cognitive load very quickly. And so the processes that are needed to actually improve your brain with neuroplasticity won't happen because they're not doing the organizing, the synthesizing, the analyzing, etc. And so we want to make sure that they use it to save time on tasks that you don't need to do, but that they get to convert that to time on cognitive load to make them a better human being and a smarter student, correct? And so let's talk about that for just a second. The rule, the AI is the drafter, you are the editor, okay? So remember that. You don't just print enter and then copy paste what the findings are. Your job is to go through that. And I don't care if you're a teacher or if you're a student. You would never create a lesson plan and not go through it with a fine-tooth comb and correct things. There's gonna be a lot of things that AI will produce that you don't want, or some other things that you might need that only come from you, that it won't understand, right? And so we want to make sure that we have human enter, AI processing, human editing. That is a very important piece. And so you can call that HAH if you want to, but we need to make sure that those 3 steps are viable when we're doing AI work. So, fact checking. AI can hallucinate or make things up, as we call it. If the gym suggests a fact for your history lesson, you must verify it. The worst thing that you could do is to teach a misconception, right? Because then you're gonna have to spend a lot of time untying that knot, right? Or untraining what you trained. And so a bias check. AI models are trained on the internet, which contains bias. It's not intentional, it's just the data that it's fed, right? And so you need to make sure that when you're reading it, that it doesn't have that bias in there. And of course, all classroom materials should be politically bias-free, right? So read through those and ensure that your work product for your classroom is also bias-free. Example, if you ask for stories about scientists, does it only give you men? You must explicitly ask for diverse examples, right? Because there's a lot of female scientists that everyone needs to know about, right? So accountability. If a lesson plan fails or contains an error, the AI wrote it is not a valid defense in a post-conference, right? Even though we see it on the news and politicians are using that, we as teachers cannot. We can't say, AI wrote it, it shouldn't have been writing it, right? You should have been composing, and you should be editing, right? And so we need to make sure that that happens. You own the final output, and that's something that you need to own, right? Just remember, you own the final output. The rule, when you share a gem, you share its brain and its memory. Remember that as you share with your teachers or colleagues, etc. Especially if you start using this student-facing. The warning, if you click share on your Team Observation Coach gem, the recipient gets access to everything you uploaded in the knowledge section. So remember that. You don't want anything in there that's going to be identifying of other people. Copyright trap. Do not upload entire PDFs of copyrighted textbooks or paid teacher resources and then share the gem publicly. That is distributing copyrighted material. That is against the law. Now, I don't know if you'll get caught on that, but I do know this, you're not supposed to do it. And as a person who works in a field of integrity, we need to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to ensure that our students get a good product and that we're teaching them legal ways to do it. Safe. Uploading the state standards, public rubrics like TEAM, or your own creative materials, those are totally fine to do. And they're public and they're public facing. Anyone can get to those, it's totally fine to use. Just make sure that whatever you send to someone else, that you're okay that if you were to say that in front of a room as large as this one, right? The Gemini Code of Honor. The Gem Builder's Checklist. 1, define purpose. I know why I built this. To save time, improve quality, close an academic gap like we did in 5th grade science. Prompt responsibility. I use specific constraints to get team-aligned results. Train effectively. I gave the gem examples, good and bad, to make it smarter. Protect privacy. I never put student names in the chat. And lastly, verify everything. I read every word before I used it in class. And if you will stick to this Gem Builder's Checklist and the Gemini Code of Honor, then you will create both safe and brilliant Gemini gems. Have a blessed day.
Dr. Ballou, what a fabulous presentation. I have learned so much. I feel like I've taken a mini course. I particularly love your references to the phrases of the golden retriever and the echo chamber. Yeah. I think that's important. And this Gemini Code of Honor, that's a basis of addressing some of the ethical questions in the use of AI. I appreciate you bringing that to this presentation. So, Dr. Hans Ballou, thank you for being here today, presenting in the AI and K-12 Collaborative at the College of Education at Middle Tennessee State University, coming from the Center for Educational Media. We hope you enjoyed this session produced by the Center for Educational Media. We're so excited to invite you to participate in CEM Online, our learning management system for virtual professional development. At CEM Online, you can complete video courses and download professional development certificates. To access CEM Online, go to cem.mtsu.edu.